The joke was, better to see a broken candle than an ugly mug, because tried to light the candle by putting the lighter in the mug, and that wasn't smart. Do you get the pug? Do you get the pun? Ugly mug? No mugshot. Prisoner number 000000000000. Or was that 111111111111? Oh. Were they talking Barney? Were they saying there was no prisoners? Was they saying there's 11 billion, 1100 million, 1100,000, 1100, 1100 and 11 bleh. Hey, go, prisoner. Okay. Prisoner is a plural, not a singular concept. Prisoner is a plural, not a singular concept. Okay, so we're in prison Earth, are we? Why are we in prison Earth? Because that's how a lot of conspiracy theorists interpreted it some years ago, about 20 years ago. So obviously, if someone didn't agree with it, they had to be, completely attacked by that, by the people believing that stuff until they, started spouting the nonsense. All right, okay. Okay then. Alright then. Alright. I say Donald Trump's a god of darkness then, because they're running a kekistocracy over there, and because God is a devil upside down, he must be Jesus Christ then. How about he's just a creepy old fucking man who doesn't know what he's fucking doing? And sometimes he's bringing people down a size thing. That's part of broken culture has its uses. The problem is when they're bringing people down to their size, not their actual size. But Donald Trump will bring him down to his own size. Okay? His size is that he's a emotionally traumatized old man with negative social conditioning that goes back to his early childhood with Fred. And he's a kind of character that's been running a scam or another his entire freaking life, Cartman style, because he's never been told no. And he's getting really pissed off over in the States at the moment because the courts are telling him no. The people are telling him no. And if he's not careful, the military will tell him no. Surprising they haven't done that yet. After all, the eagle, the American eagle, carries the fascist stick, fascism. So why haven't they had a military coup on their president yet? Oh, they wrote laws into that to prevent that from happening, didn't they? Oh, no, but they wrote laws into that the military has to do a fucking coup on the president if the president stages the coup on the fucking Congress and the goddamn Supreme Court. So America doesn't make a lot of sense. Even when America tries to make sense, it doesn't make sense. Have you noticed? Have you noticed how that there is probably a reason why there are people over there talking about white male privilege, and as well as the woke mind virus. Okay, let's put that into perspective. White male privilege means that you get to say that there is that a lifespan of 80 to 100 years, which, let's face it, isn't really the average lifespan of a white man. The average lifespan of a white man is 70 years to 75 years. The average lifespan of a white woman is 80 to 85 years. But anyway, if she's from a particular social class, that is, if she's from the upper working class to middle class, then yes, that's quite likely to be the case, and sometimes in their 90s. But that's since the 1950s. Between the 1850s and the 1950s, the average lifespan of a white man or a white woman varied between the ages of about 2.5 months to about 50 years. But if you survive, on average, if you survive past the age of 15, you are likely to live to the age of 90. So long-term survival depended on short-term survival. So if with a high infant mortality rate, it meant that the robust ones really pulled through in the end and lived the longest. But nowadays they've got all the wheat mixed in with the fucking chaff, and so got these TARs running around, and people's averaging of their lifespans is 80 to 100 years, is it? Oh wait, that sounded too much like the right wing. Okay, why does it sound like the right wing? Oh, potentially associating disabled people with chaps using Christian language. Wheat and chaff is Christian language. Right. Okay. So that's abusive on the tards, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So what do people actually die? It wasn't tardness. Okay. No offense to tards. It wasn't actually tardness between what you might call birth and the age of 15 years, was it? What killed them? Measles, mumps, rubella, the flu, smallpox, sudden infant death syndrome, wars, famine. Oh, okay. Okay. What like any number of diseases. Like the odds of them dying was extremely high. Okay. Just childbirth as well. That's right, because when did the infant mortality rate increase during childbirth? Do you know the history of that? The also that it increased after the medical establishment was developed in Europe in the late 16 early 1700s, when the men started to take over and define themselves as physicians. They kicked out the female midwives. They kicked out the female midwives, and had even killed some of them, accusing them of before that there was a culling of the wise women in Europe. Not all of them were witches; they were just accused of witchcraft even when they were midwives. So the sort of like the practice started to die out because herbalism, for example, was associated with making ointments and stuff like that. And the midwife was trained sometimes, like in that craft as well. It was usually a midwife. The midwife was the like the older female relative type of thing, but it was also the case that there was professional midwives in cases of young families, and they like new families. They had their professional services sometimes came from the wise women, and they were burning them at the stake. So their numbers gradually, significantly, were reduced during the witch burnings, and then the establishment took over by having male physicians engage in the practice, which drastically increased the infant mortality rate between the years of about, say, roughly 1600 through to about 1950. Okay, and when did the infant mortality rate start to reduce? When they had soap, indoor plumbing, and sanitation, as well as penicillin. Okay then. Okay then, and so that's what reduced the infant mortality rate was hygiene, and so were the midwives before that time practicing hygiene? Yeah, they were. Right? Yeah, they were. And were the physicians in the 16, 1700s, and 1800s practicing hygiene? No, they weren't. What were they doing? Well, in the cases of some, including those who were studying anatomy in the USA, as well as other parts of Europe, they were abducting women, similar to Jack the Ripper, and they were fond of, in particular, abducting slave women, and performed vivectomies on them. There's a practice called vivectomy, which means they were not under anesthesia nor deceased. The physician would carve up their body to see, test different things like, do they feel as much pain as white women, or do they have the same organs as white women? Does their womb really wander to their head when they're hysterical, things like that. So some of those vivectomies were performed on women who had been sent to mental asylums because they complained that their husband had raped them, and were therefore diagnosed with hysteria and placed in a padded cell called crazy bitches, and then chopped up without any anesthesia in a vivectomy. What? Unfortunately, that's some of the history of modern European and American medicine. Um, um, What? Yeah, that's what they actually did. Jack the Ripper was not cleaning up his mess. He was selecting prostitutes in London, and leaving the mess um, about the town. And so he was seen as a serial killer, but it was actually not 100% commonplace, but a unfortunately looked over and accepted practice to do vivectomies on women that had been taken to mental asylums for hysteria. So what happened during the 1920s, during the Freudian era, was that hysteria was revisited as rape fantasies. So Freud was of the opinion that his female clients had repressed ideas or urges that were coming out as rape fantasies, and that perhaps they had something called penis envy. So they were jealous of their husband having a phallus, you see, and so that's what he come up with. In about the 1970s, shell shock had been reclassified as post-traumatic stress disorder, and they started to have a look at some female clients who, in a previous era of approximately 4,000 years, would have been diagnosed with hysteria, and found that they had in fact been raped. They weren't fantasizing, they weren't happy about it, they weren't jealous of their husband having a phallus, so much as they were upset that they weren't being heard because he had one and she didn't. And so they started to gradually close the asylums and have mental health in a community setting, and let psychology take over from psychiatry. And so psychiatry was a branch of medicine, and all they were allowed to do was dish out the pills for Big Pharma, which was invented in the 1950s. Oh, okay then. So, ugly mugshot right here, fugly old mate, you crazy old fucking bitch. You know, if it was a man's physical body going through these, a vantage point, going through these spiritual dilemmas and questions, he would unquestionably be seen as a prophet, and all these acts of vampirism to steal your identity and others would be heralded as heroism for protecting them from their own bodies. But as it turns out, mind control strategies and manipulation are what you might call acceptable when it comes to the men. There hasn't been a patricianarchy, except that was the actual name of the Roman establishment, and as well as the entirety of European society since, and of course, living in Australia, we must be POMs. Well, obviously that's a load of crap, isn't it? There's something to be said about Malcolm X and others' desire to throw off the shackles of how the imperial Borg mindset had assimilated them into thinking that they were American citizens when really they were descendants of partially freed slaves who had been denied their language, culture, and customs of their ancestors as a consequence of a Borg cube system that came after them. The one problem, though, is that it's probably the case when Black Americans go to Africa, they don't fit in. They don't speak the language, they don't have the customs, they don't have the culture, and they kind of miss McDonald's a bit. They like Maccas. It's kind of an American thing. And it pisses them off, doesn't it? It pisses them off that they like Maccas. Because, you know what? They don't want to like Maccas. It's cardboard and greasy. It's overpriced. It's a weird, ugly clown that's scary. And moreover, what else is going on with Maccas? It's a corporate megalith machine that's associated with the abuse of animals and animal cruelty and factory farming and underpaying teenagers, as well as environmental destruction and the uglification of the landscape with stupid big yellow M's and weird red roofs. And honest to goodness, playpens that you wouldn't want to take your kids through because it's creepy. There's something creepy about it. But yet, the Americans still like McDonald's. So, what's this sort of like almost masochistic relationship that the Yanks have with their billionaires? So the Yanks seem to have a masochistic relationship with their billionaires. They seem to be, fond of being tortured by them. They seem to have been associating symbolically fascism with democracy for however long the USA has been using the symbol of the eagle with the fascist stick attached to it. They seem to longer than that technically, because if you have a basic rudimentary understanding of a book called The Four Turnings, which came from a guy named Dr Russell, you get this weird impression that the Yanks are culturally myopic fools who don't know that Australia doesn't have 4 seasons, so it doesn't apply, that the average lifespan of people is not 80 to 100 years, that it wasn't just youthful exploration by the baby boomers in the 1960s. It was a genuine political reaction to enormous amounts of abuse and discrimination, and which is yet to be properly addressed, by the way. Maybe, just maybe, they ought to take a good hard look at their defeatist attitude of, well, it's either infinite progression or it goes back in some kind of stupid loop. It's infinite progression towards whatever the white man's goals is, and it's a bloody loop back to whatever the white man's goals is, but or whatever the imperial man. It's either infinite progress, whatever the imperial man's goals is, or it's a loop back to whatever the imperial man's goals is. And if you don't fucking like it because your country doesn't have 4 fucking seasons and your average lifespan isn't 80 to 100 years, and you don't actually think the second phase is youthful exploration of new ideas rather than straight up being pissed off at enormous amounts of discrimination and overthrowing it, which, by the way, didn't happen in the 1860s. Oh wait, that was the American Civil War, wasn't it? That was in the 1860s. Okay. Supposedly going against enormous amounts of discrimination. No, it wasn't. The North was losing money because it was paying wages and the South wasn't. And they were under ideological pressure to keep paying wages to the people in the North. So their only solution was to stop the people in the South from enslaving people. If they didn't go to war in the South, the North would have gone to war with the North. That was the 1860s. Okay? And so, if you see it that way, then Abraham Lincoln's not as much of a hero as he thought he fucking was. And you can see why the Republican Party was capable of turning into what it is now. So, slave owning dickheads founded the fucking country. Oh, wait, the Native Americans never did that? Oh, bullshit. It depends which country it was. There were many different countries in the USA before that. Each one had different laws and customs, and each region had different needs because each one had different climates. Simple as that. The equatorial regions have different weather to the fucking north. There's not 4 seasons in the USA. It depends where in the USA you go. And if you got that much variability in the USA, then how many fucking seasons you got, Yeah, just trying to get you to think. Okay, because if the physical body is located in a place like Australia, they already know there's not 4 seasons. Some seasons are 2 weeks long, and only apply to a region of about 100 kilometres. There are some places that have so-called 4 seasons in one day. It's not just a Neil Finn song, Neil Finn, like Crowded House, New Zealand. That's meant to be a bit of a joke, but there's actual towns that sort of jokingly have them. But you'll find there's no 4 seasons in Australia. There never was, and there never will be, because this sort of idea of historical cycles repeating is crap. They don't actually repeat. It might be a common pattern for there to be cycles, sun and the moon and whatever else. But in case you hadn't noticed, at least 60 to 70% of the time over the last 18 months, Orion's been appearing in the due west and hasn't been in the northern sky. It's been traveling in the western sky, not the northern sky. And how do we know this? Because it appears where the sun sets. It's also been the case about 18 months ago that the Southern Cross stopped appearing in the south sky and started appearing in the eastern sky. And before that happened, there were 2 UAPs posing as Alpha and Beta Centauri, which then disappeared, and then 2 days later the Southern Cross appears and starts bringing the wrong part of the sky. This has been tested seasonally with equinoxes and solstices. The sun is rising and setting in the same spots it always did, so east and west are still the fucking same. This has been tested with weather. This has been tested against satellites. This has been tested against whether it's drones and whatever else. It's all been fucking tested. It's all been observed and tested over a period of 18 months. And you can guarantee that there's something wrong with the sky. That the stars aren't right. There's something wrong there. That something has changed in the last 18 months. And before you start screaming the sky is fake and we live in a simulation, take into consideration that the UAP can mimic a star, such as Alpha and Beta Centauri. Then maybe what the UAPs are doing is living on the outer edges of the solar system, and they're creating mirror illusions where they've been in a different spot. Take that into consideration. That might be the case. That might be possible. Okay? As one possibility. That's not a simulation. That's UAPs lying, telling lies. Okay? I'll put this. You think? Where do you think the source of this light's coming from? It's obviously a candle. Do you think it's really close to the video? Do you think it's really far away over here? Well, actually, it's really far away over here. It wasn't before, but say it's there, right? Okay, do a different, see, you can do different illusions to point the light in a different spot. You make it flick in different spots just by moving objects in front of it. Imagine this was 10 light years away. Okay, 10 to 15 light years away, or 4 light years away in the case of Alpha Centauri. And just imagine for a second that a UAP came along and just sort of, this is how big the light is originally, but so far away that it looks a lot smaller. See how it's bigger here and smaller there? So imagine it's like that, right? And then just, when it's closer, that looks smaller. But here, you see that UOP can cover more spot. Okay, so with that type of thing, okay, those illusions can be generated. Okay, so that's something that they're doing. They have been doing so. There's people out there who've been lying, been lied to by assumptions about the glitches in the matrix and the world being a simulation, stuff like that. You don't have to believe that stuff just because there was a TV show in the 90s, okay? Believing that crap got us the fucking tech bros, okay? All those same group of guys, those tech bro billionaires, were together in the university dorms in the 90s, studying whatever they were studying before they formed their little cartel to ruin the world via Silicon Valley. And they were sitting there off their fucking face on fucking drugs, chuffing away, pill popping and carrying on, watching Keanu Reeves, okay, and going crazy, okay? And Keanu Reeves must be so upset right now. That poor man must be so upset because Keanu Reeves, the actual person, apparently, is a very nice man. And he doesn't believe the world's a simulation. He's a Buddhist. So Keanu Reeves was just acting, and he knew he was acting. He would have been very offended were he to be used in some kind of suggestion, some type of symbolic suggestion for cult conditioning of the community, lacking perception in artificial radio waves and whatever else, and therefore struggling to process that they're not in a simulation at all. And so we have a whole bunch of different issues to consider. For example, have you seen the White Room on Titan, also known as the White Room on Atlantis, or the White Room facility? Have you had the experience of passing through someone else's head using a box system? Have you seen demons there or whatever else as well? Other forms of projections, maybe artificial intelligence, perhaps. Is there some reason why everyone was absolutely certain straight away that it was Elon Musk? Is that because people intuitively know that that there's something about the ultra wealthy that makes that it lends itself to corruption? That they may have been corrupt to begin with, and in the case of those tech bros, they were. But not in the absolute beginning, obviously, since they're youth at the university. They became more corrupt over the course of time, did they? Okay, fair enough. Okay, but is it not the case that there are some ideas there as well that predate those men, and people like that, and the US military and whatever else, and other groups would take advantage of said ideas to propagate propaganda to you? Is there any possibility that the military in the United States staged a coup some years ago, and they're not admitting to it, except through occasionally a couple of conspiracy theorists who aren't telling the story straight anyway, because they're being fed whatever line that suits the agenda, because they're not actually going to leak the truth. They're only going to leak that which promotes their agenda. Is that not correct? Okay, talking about military strategy, they won't tell you what the leak is. They'll tell you what they need you to do to get their job done. And what is their job? We don't actually know. Okay, their job is to get everyone else to clean up after their mess. It's as simple as that. The United States military wants everyone in the world to clean up after their mess. They made the mess, and they're expecting everyone else to clean it up. And if you don't think the USA is capable of it, just look at their emblem, an eagle with fascist sticks on it. Don't be surprised, mate, that Donald Trump is not the first fascist in the USA, because the USA is fascist. All they've done is shown you that they're fascist. So the question of why they're fascist raises some interesting question. Why is the USA like the Borg? Because they stole themselves as the Fourth Reich before even Hitler did. Oh, wait. He was the Third Reich, was he? No. Hitler was the Fourth Reich. But you know what the First Reich was? The Third Reich was the Industrial Revolution. The Second Reich was the rule of Constantinian Roman Empire or Christendom. The First Reich was the city-state empires. City-state empires, Constantine's Christendom, the Industrial Revolution, then the Fourth Reich. Wasn't it? Had to be Hitler, had to be Hitler. No, it was the Americans. Okay? What's it? You sure it was the Americans? Oh, look, is that your fourth turn? We're in the fourth turning, are we? Oh, wait. All of this happened over one person's lifetime? Someone who's 80 to 100 years old? Where someone born in 60 BC is now 100 years old in 2025? Are you crazy? This doesn't make any sense. You got cube thinking. American wrote that book, he's got cube thinking. He thinks there's 4 seasons and 4 sides to a square. He probably thinks there's 4 dimensions as well. Well, have a look at your 2022 Nobel Prize then, you dickhead. There ain't 4 dimensions. That's crap. Spaceport's time isn't required. What's with your cycles of time then, and your calendars? If time isn't required to comprehend certain types of phenomena, well, then what's your fucking point? Is it required in classical physics but not non-classical physics? Okay then. You talk about politics and society is not physics at all. That's a different topic. Okay? That's contents of people's heads. And contents of people's behaviour too. Cultural myopia. It's all about cultural myopia. Okay, cultural myopia. There's not 4 seasons. There's not 4 turnings. There's not 4 Reichs. Oh, the first empire ever was Rome, was it? Oh, what about Egypt? What about Samaria? What about this? What about... People have got all kinds of infinite regresses one direction and infinite progresses in the other. And none of it's making any fucking sense. It's not making any sense. Okay? It's using logical fallacies and buzzwords instead of facts. There's no facts in any argument. It's just logical fallacies and buzzwords. Emotional manipulations, distortions, confusions. Look, take your karma back through the looking glass, back out the black hole to the other side already. Okay? And go back to the other side of the white fucking room already. If anyone wants to have that fucking shit where they believe that COVID was the same as the Spanish flu despite having a much lower death rate, then go over there and do it somewhere else. Because it doesn't. It has a lower death rate. And don't go buy any lies about the Chinese losing 2/3 of the population. They left. Okay, they went to other countries. And until they can substantiate that the death rate was that high, okay, we're going to have to go with that. Because if it is that high, it'll be genocide that fucking caused it, not COVID. Because they reckon the death rate for COVID was like 2% or less. Less in most situations. Less than 2%. When it was 30% for Spanish flu. Oh, it cycles exactly, does it? 1919, 2019, a flu. Oh no, it's the 1920s and the Nazi Party's rising again. Oh no. No, it's Franco. That's Franco, mate. It's not 1933, it's about 1925 by that standard, isn't it? So you're dealing with Franco. Okay? You're dealing with Mussolini and you're dealing with Franco. Okay? So, yeah, it's a sort of way you can twist this stuff anyway. Oh no, there's going to be a great economic depression in 4 years. No, there isn't. No, there isn't. You think Larry Fink fucking wants that? He's got all your shares already. USA, he's got all your shares already. You're talking, he's in your country, you're talking about this Larry Fink guy on BlackRock, and he's got all your shares already. He owns all your corporations. He's not going to have a great depression in your country, because he'll go broke. You'd have to be real fucking sadist to do that one. Oh wait, he's already pulled a mini recession on you by playing a tariff game with Trump. Pretty sick, isn't it? Is that what actually happened in 1925 with the New York Stock Exchange? No. That's not what happened back then. They had different standards of regulation. Oh wait, hang on. We've been through a deregulation phase. Like the early 1900s. Right, so it's a big cycle, is it? Really? So, did the polar ice caps melt since somewhere between 1890 and 1890 and 1900? So, just before the Boer War, did the polar ice caps melt? And all the polar bears died? No, they didn't. Well, that didn't cycle. Was it the case that are we having another gold rush in Victoria? No? No gold rush in Victoria? Well, no, that was the wrong year, sorry. The gold rush in Victoria, that was about the 1960s. Was there another gold rush in Victoria in the 1960s? No, there wasn't. There was one in the 1860s, though, and just before then, too. Gone. Okay, so it's a 2020s. What was the 1920s like in Australia? Do we presently have the White Australia policy? No. Well, that's good. What about Terra Nullius? Nope, don't have that either. Okay, Stolingen? Hopefully not that. Okay, what about, hang on a second. Do women have the right to vote in Australia? Yes. They didn't have that in 1925. Oh, it took a couple more years. Oh, hang on. Wait. Are women allowed to have a job if they're married? Yes. Okay, so it's not 1925 then. Okay. Wait. Could it be that cycles are bullshit? Could it be that American guy really is culturally myopic, ethnocentric, and talking out his ass? Maybe.